Chad Durbin, a professional athlete for 13 seasons in the major leagues, stops by with us every Thursday here on OTB. How much are you looking forward to the Bulls docuseries coming out on Sunday night, The Last Dance?
Illinois, about 90 minutes out of Chicago, and Michael Jordan, just for everybody, for everybody else in the country, I'm sure it's very similar, but being there and, all the local news that covered it and just the familiarity and the pride with we had the Chicago Bears that were really good back then with Peyton and all that stuff, and the Cubs were fun to watch, but when NBA season came along and he came into the league and what he was doing with the media kind of, climbing its ladders along with him, just the ecosystem back then in the 80s is amazing to have that guy to kind of lead you as an athlete. I know so many athletes that, they reference how tough he was, how he went about his business, the way he competed. Like you tried to bring that on to any court or any field you ever stepped on, and you just try to emulate MJ. And people still do it today. Nobody will ever reach that. It'll never be the same set of circumstances. So I'm looking forward to it about as much as I can. I told the wife, I'm like, yeah, it's like a 50-part series, 200 hours, and I'm not complaining. I think it's too short.
Yeah, right. I just wish they'd drop it all at once so I can just watch it in bulk.
Did I miss it? Did you mention, Jordan? Also, ESPN is going to show it with curse words, unedited,
yes.
with curse words.
ESPN2 will be censored. ESPN will be uncensored on Sunday night. So if you got kids in the room, you might want to click it on ESPN2. But if you're going to be there with you and your adult friends, ESPN will have the unedited version. Michael Jordan said that he believes that people will think that he is a terrible person after watching this because at the rate that he competed. Who was the most psycho-competitive teammate you ever had, or what's some of the scenarios that you can paint of a psycho-competitor during your days at the elite level?
Man, a lot of the guys that are going to go into the Hall of Fame or already have, they were competitive like that, whether it was, Chase Utley, who has a chance to go in, or a Pudge Rodriguez. Those guys, they came every day, had a chip on their shoulder. It wasn't just competing on the field. We all know that. I'm the same way. If we play horse right now, I'm going to try to crush you. I'm going to try to embarrass you. I hope you never ask to play again. And that's the kind of attitude when 25 in a big league clubhouse, 25, 26 guys, they're all alphas. So the alpha of the alphas, steps up and you just, if you can't practice at that speed when the game happens, you're not going to be able to dial it into that, that trajectory. You're not going to be able to go there that quick. So I think that's what those guys do in practice, though, whether it's taking ground balls or throwing a bullpen or lifting. In baseball, the same thing in practice with basketball. I've heard those stories early on where, he wanted guys like Scottie Pippen and those guys, go ahead and quit because I need somebody that can run with me. And it made those guys better. You either quit or somewhere else, or you stepped up your game and you're ready to go compete with him.
Derbs, we're running an OTB poll right now at off OTB_ESPN. Who is the best LSU basketball player of all time? We're in the finals. It's Pistol Pete versus Shaq. Where's Chad Durbin going?
I'm going to go Pistol Pete. Shaq is, and especially with his son coming on and doing such a good interview, and I'm excited about him coming. For me, Pistol Pete changed the game. Shaq definitely changed the game, but man, that's a tough one. Who would I rather watch play? Probably Pistol Pete. Who would I rather, have as my teammate in a game? It's probably going to be Shaq. So, that was a fun time. I moved down here in 1990, and to have Shaq ruining rims and entire goals at the Pete Maravich Assembly Center, I'm going to have to go with the guy that was there first.
Talking to Chad Durbin like we do every week here on 104.5 ESPN and Off the Bench. And Chad, there's so much conversation about baseball coming back. I know we asked you initially, you seemed a little skeptical a couple weeks ago when they floated the idea of playing kind of in a bubble zone in Arizona. Have you thought about it anymore? Have any new details come to light that have maybe changed your mind at all?
Well, the same thing, pops up over and over again is, what are you going to do with players that have extenuated circumstances at home? Mike Trout, who is, one of the faces of the game, probably the best player in the game, he came out and said, my wife has a kid, and do I have to be quarantined for 14 days? What are we doing about that? How are we going to handle that situation? To me, that's, waiting longer, missing some more games, extending the season, all that. Nothing new has come up other than the players having a voice, especially with social media being how it is today. And then the PA, Players Association, they're going to back those players. So, I think they're, I love the idea that they're pushing, playing baseball and sooner rather than later. You got to throw the ideation's there. Now you just have to tighten the screws.
Does anybody love COVID-19 dominating the news wire more than the Houston Astros?
I think about that on a regular basis. Some of the goodwill coming out of this, you look at Bregman raising a ton of money and doing a lot of really good things over there. And, look, we would have rode them hard all year, and they'll get ridden when it all comes out. But people are going to have a different focus. You won't have the same amount of people, with signs. The stands probably won't be full. I mean, they're in a really, really good spot with all things considered on this. So, Baton Rouge being an Astros-centric, city, this is probably good for Baton Rouge too. No having to fight your buddy when he starts popping off about the Astros.
Chad, so you mentioned like Mike Trout, right? Bringing up what you could, I don't know if players' rights is the right term, but like the player perspective on being in this kind of bubble for 4.5 months. What's your reaction if someone is to say like, yeah, that sucks, but you're highly paid professionals. If you want to play baseball, this is what has to happen.
So ultimately, the team calls and says, hey, report here. And, this is how things are going to be. You'll go within those guidelines. And when something does come up and you do have to leave the team for 2 weeks, it is what it is. And I think everybody will just kind of, you'll have some fight. The prep going into it will be the fight. And then once everybody's there, you're going to play and you're going to go about your business the way you can. It won't be the same. Nobody expects it to be the same, look the same, or feel the same. But what I really do like for Major League Baseball, because I feel like it's behind the NFL and even the NBA in some ways as far as fan interaction and engagement, especially in that 25 to 40-year-old range. They want butts in the seats. Well, that's not an option. So how are we going to engage our fans? There's the sports betting aspects of it. There's also the ability to give unique and new content more consistently. And I think that is going to help propel baseball forward, catch them up to 2020, where I think it lags behind sometimes.
They need to let people like film clips and put them online at home, like the NBA does. Trying to just keep that all in-house has been a terrible decision, in my opinion. I'm talking to Chad Durbin. Chad, so earlier I was asking Sammy Flavors, our new employee here, if she had ever heard of Fred Durst or Limp Bizkit. She had not. Do you have an opinion on Limp Bizkit?
So I listened to, some pretty harsh songs of theirs. I wouldn't want my kid listening to it right now at 12 years old, but when I went to the field on days I pitched every 5 days in AAA Omaha, I raged on my way in there, and I was ready to run people off the road.
Let's
and
go.
Drill guys for making eye contact. I mean,
so
there's definitely a place for that, and for me, it was in that 2001 range. It was. I've actually made my 12-year-old listen to it, and he's like, "Really, Dad? That's how you think on the mound?" I was like, "Yeah, at times I was ready to wreck somebody."
Never mind.
Give me something to break. Yeah.
Derbs, another week of quarantine down, my friend. We'll talk to you next Thursday. Stay healthy.
Hey, real quick, I know you got to go. A kid 2 doors down from me is listening this morning, Jake McCann. His dad texted me this morning and said, "Hey, I'm going to have him listen in." The kid is nonstop. I have a batting cage on the side of the house, and he hits probably 10 buckets a day.
Wow.
So for any other 13-year-olds out there, 10 buckets a day is the standard for that kid. So he's getting his work in. Compete.
Shout out
Jake.
Jake McCann, living down a couple doors down from Durbs. Durbs every
doors
Thursday.
down?
Thank you, man.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
There he is, Chad Durbin.